Man, I don't know what the 49ers can do at the quarterback position at this point. This is a video basically wanting to start a conversation about the quarterback room. More specifically, with the history of what has happened at that position for this franchise. And let's go through a little bit of the history just to refresh our memory. I understand if you're watching this video, you're most likely an NFL fan, so you're already kind of in tune to what's happened since 2017. But let me just give you a quick refresher, quick little rundown, and then we'll break down what's really next for this position, because it's going to be something that's going to be talked about all offseason. So you're going to hear multiple ideas until something actually comes to fruition. And the answer might be more simple than people make it out to be. Kyle Shanahan was hired in 2017 for the San Francisco 49ers, and they went 6-10 with major starters being Brian Hoyer, CJ Beathard, and Jimmy G was traded midway through the season. That's when he kind of went on his little run of being an undefeated quarterback, because he was undefeated with the Patriots and now he's undefeated with the 49ers. So there's a lot of hype built up. Then 2018 happens and Jimmy G, I believe, tore his ACL. Then you had Nick Mullins, CJ Beathard, and obviously Jimmy G for a couple games. 2019, Jimmy G is finally healthy for all 16 games. This was before the 17-game season started. They went 13-3. Super Bowl happened. He overthrew him. You start to question whether or not Jimmy G is the quarterback that can get you over the top when compared to a guy like Patrick Mahomes. The next year happens, 2020. Weird year overall, but you had Nick Mullins, CJ Beathard, Jimmy G got hurt midway through, so that's why those quarterbacks started. Then they make the move for the third overall pick, which is probably one of the most lopsided trades in NFL history now that kind of the dust has settled. We don't know what Trey Lance is, but we'll get into that in a minute. And they go 6-10. 2021, 10-7. Jimmy G and Trey Lance for 2 games. They make it to the conference championship. It's clear that this team can make it into the playoffs once they get there, but they're still limited at the quarterback position with Jimmy G. Then 2022 happens. We start the year with Trey Lance. That's the plan. And there was an idea that you were going to trade Jimmy G sometime down the line, but it never really happened. And it turned out that was a blessing in disguise, as he started after Trey Lance got injured for the rest of the season. But as luck would have it, Jimmy G gets hurt, and now we have the Brock Purdy show, and he starts playing amazing. So amazing, he gets y'all to the conference championship without losing a single game. And in that conference championship, he, I believe, tears his UCL, which is in the elbow, and he is now out for 6 months, and he may not be ready for the start of next season if you were to go with him. And just to throw it in there, we had Josh Johnson and Christian McCaffrey take snaps at quarterback. And obviously in previous years, you had like Deebo Samuel at quarterback at times, but I just wanted to throw that in there. And obviously conference championship, as we saw last night. I don't know why I said last night. It's been a couple days, guys, since the conference championship. I kind of wanted to get my thoughts together. Before I get into this, we already have people like Colin Cowherd, sports media personalities, promoting that Tom Brady should go and be the quarterback for the 49ers, the golden boy of the NFL, going to the golden team with the golden helmet. It's a match made in heaven, right? He doesn't get injured, and he'll get him to the Super Bowl for a year and right off into the sunset. It's almost poetic, but I just don't know if that's realistic. I want to deny it. Like, my instincts say it's not going to happen. And also, financially, I don't know how it works. I don't know what the cap situation for the 49ers is. I understand I could have researched that, but here we are. I do want to talk about the quarterbacks that are on the roster right now. I do think Jimmy G's gone. I think Jimmy G is going to be most likely a New York Jet. I could imagine that happening. But more specifically with Trey Lance and Brock Purdy. I think the Brock Purdy injury makes it more likely that they just stick it with Lance. Obviously, you've put all this investment into the third overall pick, a guy that doesn't have many NFL snaps, and he didn't have many college snaps to begin with. So you begin to question, how much are you going to continue this patient waiting for this guy that potentially could be the perfect quarterback for this Kyle Shanahan offense. As you saw, all those quarterbacks I mentioned, they had relative success for as much as they could. I mean, obviously, Mr. Irrelevant going all the way to a conference championship, and I had predicted that they would go to a Super Bowl. Obviously, my bracket got a little messed up, but on TikTok, I was like, you know what? My gut's telling me the 49ers are going to win this game. I'm going with the 49ers. And we could pinpoint Kyle Shanahan's luck as obviously in a negative way. He is one of the greatest play callers I've ever seen, but apparently he traded that in for the worst luck in the world. And I could sit here and tell you maybe if they find the fountain of youth or a magical fairy that fixes all their quarterback issues. But let's be real. One thing, the franchise should be looked into for the amount of injuries it deals with. Maybe it's just bad luck. Maybe it's training, something like that. Because this is not just a quarterback problem that they've had. They've had running back issues. But then all of a sudden Christian McCaffrey comes on the roster and then he plays a full slate of games when he was never able to do that in the NFL for the most part. So, like, I want us to just pinpoint it as bad luck and move on. But that's not fully what I want to get my point to is. More, I don't know if it's the lack of detail, and it could have just been play design, and maybe they've ran that play multiple times and it didn't get blown up, and maybe his UCL doesn't get torn. But the lack of detail to put a third string tight end on a potential defensive player of the year candidate in Hassan Reddick, who is getting his own video, by the way. I want to make that very clear. I'm definitely going to give Hassan Reddick his own video. And also, if I sound a little nasally, it's because I'm sick. Well, give me a break. I've been trying to get this video out, and multiple things have been going wrong. Like my video camera wouldn't finish recording. It wouldn't go to my... It's been a mess. It's cold here in Texas too. If I want to rack up all the excuses, let's rack them up. But like when we go into this offseason, say like, and I say we as if I'm in the general manager's chair, or if I'm in the head coach's chair, like what is the next step? Do you honestly do nothing? And honestly, that might be the simple answer that I was referring to. Do you just let the dust settle and just accept, hey, man, this is bad luck. We have had really terrible luck for year to year, and when we have a healthy quarterback, we clearly can make it really far. Because at some point, all love to Josh Johnson, and there's been a lot of people saying he sold us the game. You do not expect Josh Johnson to come in after the run that they were having against a defense like that, in an environment like that. You should not have the expectation that he could put you over the top. He's a journeyman quarterback for a reason. God bless him for having a job for that long, because clearly, as a backup quarterback, if you have that job that long, you're a smart dude. You're able to understand defenses, but maybe you can't put it all together on the field. He's a great teammate. Like, I just don't understand the people that are hating on Josh Johnson. It's a tough position to be in. And my dad did point something out to me. He mentioned, why don't we have another quarterback suited up? Maybe it's a NFL rule. I think it's a fair question, is why isn't there a third guy ready to go? But maybe it's a roster spot situation. Like, I don't know. There could have been a backup quarterback. Hell, even throwing Cam Newton there, maybe if he suited up for the 49ers. I don't know. This is me throwing out just hypotheticals. I'm sure I'm going to make a video comparing Brock Purdy to Trey Lance. If you ask me right now, you go with Trey Lance, you invested this money, you have to see what you have in him. And if he gets injured, you at least know what you have with Brock Purdy. Maybe you trade Brock Purdy at the peak of his trade value. This is probably the most value he's going to have. And an elbow injury can be a serious deal for a quarterback, as we saw with a guy like Matthew Stafford, as he had an injury to his elbow, and it completely took away all of his arm strength. And let's be real, Brock Purdy did not have the strongest arm in the world. And I revert back to the Tom Brady thing, because he's an available quarterback. Or maybe Aaron Rodgers. Do you trade for Aaron Rodgers? Like, what's the plan then? I think Aaron Rodgers would be your dream option, because, man, would he do wonders in that offense. But how much capital do you have, and I don't think you can trade for a guy with that contract, because you're kind of capped with this elite level roster. You're going to have to give up guys around him in order, because I believe they have to pay Nick Bosa soon. I'm sure they have to pay like Fred. They've already paid Fred Warner. They have to pay a lot of these other guys that make this roster so special. So what are you willing to sacrifice on this good roster to bring in a completely new quarterback that very easily could get hurt? Because all these skill position groups are really, really damn good, but you're going to have to start paying them. And you keep Trey Lance around for a cheaper contract and a better roster, or do you bring in a guy like Tom Brady, Aaron Rodgers, and sacrifice the roster around him? I don't know. But if you're at this point of the video, thank you so much for watching. Let me know what you think of the new thumbnail. I understand this was just kind of a conversation starter, so please leave a comment down below. I would love to talk to you about this situation, because I think it's one of the most confusing and polarizing quarterback situations I've ever seen during my lifetime. So thank you so much for watching. Have a wonderful day.